What's going on, Metropolitans? It's September 1st, which means the rosters expand. The Mets add two, Alex Young and Pablo Reyes to the team. How do they fare? We're talking about that and to give you a preview of what's ahead on this edition of Mets Digest. My name is Flobo Boyce. I, alongside Mike D'Angelo, are on the crack staff trying to find you the best news and notes revolving the New York Metropolitans franchise. Thank you so much for rocking with us. If you haven't already, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button to make sure you're in the know of things that are happening with the team, news, notes, so much more. Let's get into it. Like I said before, as I record this, it is late on the first day of September, and well, for a team that everyone pretty much written off in May, we're doing pretty well. I stayed up, I watched the Sunday night baseball game, ESPN Sunday Night Baseball between the Atlanta Braves and the Philadelphia Phillies, with Philadelphia walking it off. And as it stands right now, the Mets are one game behind the Braves for the final wild card spot, which is something that a lot of people didn't think we had a chance to do that. But the thing is, we got to have our heads on a swivel, even though we swept the White Sox today, even though we went to the number 1 and number 2 wild card spot holders in Arizona and San Diego with a 7-3 road trip. We still have more work to do. The Chicago Cubs are 2 games behind us, which means if you have a bad week, you could pretty much be outside of the playoff picture quite like that. And so I'm kind of happy. I am cautiously optimistic of the prospects of what can be for us as we move on into this season. So one of the cool things about it being September is that it's also time for changes with the roster. You're allowed 2 more to join the squad. The Mets pick up 2, and one of them is a little bit interesting, and one of them is a bit more understandable. One of them is the lefty pitcher, Alex Young, went down when they brought back Dedriel Nunez the second time before he went back down with another injury. But the other one was kind of interesting. We'll talk about Alex Young in a second because he does have an upside. We saw him a little bit in the season, but the real story was among the second option. Pablo Reyes is a veteran, and I actually have his stats here for you. I'm going to bring it up real quick. So, interestingly enough, he was already brought back on a minor league deal, brought back from Syracuse, and it did raise a bit of speculation of what the role was going to be for Pablo being on the squad. Even though he is a middle infielder, definitely not necessarily going to be used as much as Iglesias or any of the normal infield stalwarts. Pablo Reyes, as I've noticed by perusing the interwebs, has a very rabid fan base of Boston Red Sox fans who appreciated his effort when he was on the squad. And so people were kind of asked, how is he going to be used? And just like that, his first day on the job, he was pitch running for JD Martinez in the 9th and scored that second run that pretty much put the game out of reach for the Chicago White Sox. So that was interesting enough to be able to be part of the decision. Got his first run for the team, instantly contributing, because even though we love JD Martinez, he's literally one of the slowest members on the team. And well, before we get into what people were saying about the detraction of actually adding Pablo to the team, let's talk about the other pickup in Alex Young. Alex Young, the young-ish left-hander, age 30, into his age 31 season, was brought up was sent down when they activated Dedriel Nunez the last time before he went back down to the IL with his own discomfort as it is. So kind of a reunion for the squad. Didn't do really much on the squad. He was here earlier than Alex Young, but definitely can be a hand in that bullpen. Even though it's not perfect, even though the bullpen is kind of shaky, we're seeing a little bit of stability on the hands that we have. Reed Garrett had a Sunday shift and did pretty well for himself. Horacio Brazaban is the giant question mark now, but that's something that seems to be kind of writing itself. And of course, Edwin Diaz, ever since giving up that giant and massive grand slam in San Diego, it seems to be on another level. Even Jose Quintana, somebody on this channel I've been very critical about as being able to right the ship at all. But it's always good to have a fresh arm just to have in that rotation, especially for lefties. So I told you there's a bit of a controversy about that, and I won't say that much of a controversy because David Stearns knows what he's doing. But this one is centered around top prospect Luis Angel Acuna. A lot of people were saying, hey, look, let the kids play. September is really a chance to bring up some of the rookies to see if they can hang. And Luis Angel Acuna, which is related to the Ronald Acuna Jr., was pretty much the one people thought. There was people out there saying about Brandon Sproat as well, but I think Acuna was the one that if anyone had to guess would get the call, would be him. But Angel Acuna is going to be still at in the minor league system. So that kind of raised a bunch of questions. I say it's a controversy, but pretty much internet controversy is pretty much debatable. And so the question is really around what was the Mets thinking, the rationale of bringing in Alex Young, but definitely Pablo Reyes up instead of youth. They're playing on youth, and this was an article I came across. This one I came across it from Sports Illustrated, but this one was a conversation that Carlos Mendoza, the manager, had with SNY TV about that very same subject. Carlos says, in that particular case, referring to Luis Angel Acuna, I think it's just playing time, Mendoza said, of New York promoting Reyes over Acuna per SNY. For Acuna, he's still got to continue to play. Like I said, there's not going to be many starts here, and it's important for his development to continue to play every day. Now, this is cool for two reasons. One, David Stearns has made it very clear as part of his mix of making the makeup of the team that he was going to let youth play. And we've seen youth be flashed before, but it doesn't make any sense to bring a guy up where we're literally saying, look, you're going to be a bench piece. Iglesias has been revelation at second or the middle infield, and Torrens, even someone who's a backup catcher, is kind of strong on its own. You think about all the people who be picked up off the quote-unquote wires and scrap heaps and all that stuff. They've all been pretty good. Anyone being brought up is going to be on that bench. And so why would you bring a rookie just to rot on that bench? And the Mets have been guilty of doing that before. We all know the couple of first 10 years that Beatty or Vientos had before they decided what they wanted to do. But also, I do think this is actually a vote of confidence for Acuna because he really wasn't doing that great, but he was pretty much showing promise as well. And you don't want to put him up in a situation where he would fail, and that could rattle his confidence. In fact, as it is right now, the 22-year-old is hitting 265 with a 676 OPS with 7 home runs and 86 runs scored. Definitely solid for the minors, but being brought up will probably be feeding him to the Sharks at this point, especially as the games have a little bit more weight as we roll forward. And wait, we do. 10 games on the road. We're finally back home for a couple of days. We're going to have 3 games hosting the Red Sox, and then a day off, and then 3 games hosting the Reds. Well, I'm not going to look past the Red Sox. The Reds are kind of a sneaky team on their own, but every game is starting to count this month here. I felt like we said that last week we went on the road, that this was the true test of our season. Well, now more than ever, 2 homestands, 2 road trips are going to separate this wild card thing. I would love to get some ground to put us in that second wild card spot, but Arizona and San Diego seem to be operating at a crazy clip. And even though the Braves don't really lose all too often, it felt good to watch them take an L here Sunday night. So that's our expanded roster. That's what it looks like. How do you feel about Young? How do you feel about Reyes? How do you feel about the team as we roll into September? You know, keep our head down, nose to the grindstone. Yes, I know that last road trip could have been 9 games to 1, but I'll take 7-3, especially going on 2 teams that are stronger than yourself. I feel good. I feel really good about the prospect of the team rolling into the playoffs. We may be early in the playoff celebrations quite yet, but things are looking up. Well, you've reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Let me know what you know in the comments below. We'll be back next time with more of that content you love so much. And as always, it's LGM to the bitter end.